Picture this. Your party pushes through the tavern's heavy oak door, expecting nothing more than warm ale and a safe place to rest. But as the last patron stumbles into the night and the barkeep dims the lanterns, something shifts. The floorboards creak in patterns that sound almost like whispers. The mirror behind the bar reflects rooms that shouldn't exist. And that painting of the smiling merchant, his eyes are tracking your every move. Here's the thing about haunted taverns. They're not just spooky buildings with ghosts rattling chains. They're storytelling goldmines that transform the most familiar RPG location into something that will have your players questioning every shadow, every creaking step, every friendly smile from the staff. When you combine supernatural dread with hidden passages and secret doors, you create a location that's part sanctuary, part puzzle box, and part nightmare. Most game masters think of taverns as pit stops, places where adventurers grab supplies, gather rumors, and move on. But what if that cozy inn your players have been using as their home base has been watching them this whole time? What if the walls remember every conversation, every secret shared over late-night drinks? What if the building itself has been collecting stories, and now it wants to tell one of its own? The haunted tavern with secret doors isn't just a location, it's a character in your campaign. It breathes with the rhythm of settling timbers and sighs with the wind through hidden passages. It remembers the merchant who died choking on poisoned wine in room 7, the assassin who vanished through a revolving bookshelf, the cult that held midnight rituals in chambers that officially don't exist. Every secret door tells a story, and every ghost guards a truth. But here's where it gets interesting. The supernatural elements and the hidden architecture work together to create something greater than the sum of their parts. The ghost of the murdered serving girl doesn't just wander the halls, she's trying to lead someone to the concealed door behind the kitchen pantry where her killer hid the evidence. The spectral barkeep who appears only at midnight isn't just there to spook your players. He's desperately trying to warn them about the hidden chamber beneath the wine cellar where something ancient still sleeps. Think about the psychology of fear and discovery. Your players enter expecting the familiar comfort of a tavern, but that expectation becomes a weapon against them. Every normal tavern sound becomes potentially sinister. Is that creaking just the building settling, or is someone walking in the hidden passages between the walls? Is the barkeep's smile genuinely friendly, or does he know something about the door that shouldn't exist behind the fireplace? The secret doors themselves become more than just architectural features. They're portals between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. Maybe the door in the cellar only appears when the temperature drops below freezing, opened by the ghost of the tavern's original owner, who froze to death in a blizzard. Perhaps the revolving section of the main hall's bookshelf only turns when touched by someone who's killed another person, revealing a passage that leads to the tavern's dark history. Here's what locals whisper about the Weeping Griffin Inn. They say the building has too many rooms inside for what you can count from the street. Guests book the night in room 12, but when they climb the stairs, they find 13 doors on the second floor. The extra door changes location every night, and those brave enough to open it find different horrors waiting inside. Sometimes it's a room frozen in time from 50 years ago, complete with the skeleton of a guest who never checked out. Other times it opens onto a vast library filled with books that write themselves, documenting the sins of everyone who's ever stayed the night. The genius of this concept lies in how it subverts player expectations while giving you infinite storytelling possibilities. Your players think they understand taverns. They're safe spaces, neutral ground, places where even enemies might share a drink without violence. But when the familiar becomes threatening, when the safe space reveals hidden dangers, the psychological impact is profound. They'll never look at another tavern the same way again. Consider the mechanics of discovery. Maybe the secret doors only reveal themselves under specific conditions. The hidden passage in the common room appears only when someone sits in the chair where the notorious gambler was stabbed through the heart. The concealed entrance to the upper floors manifests when a particular song is played on the old piano. The same melody the ghost of the murdered bard keeps humming. These aren't just arbitrary puzzles. They're emotional triggers that connect the supernatural inhabitants to the physical architecture. But the real magic happens when your players realize the tavern isn't just haunted. It's actively participating in their story. The ghost of the former owner doesn't just appear randomly. She manifests when the players are discussing plans that mirror the conspiracy that led to her death. The secret door behind the bar doesn't just hide a stash of gold. It conceals evidence of the corruption that your players are investigating in the present day. The building becomes a timeline of tragedies and secrets, each hidden room preserving a different chapter of dark history. The concealed chamber beneath the kitchen contains the remains of the poisoning victims from 30 years ago. The false wall in the attic hides the study where the mad scholar summoned the entity that still influences the tavern's atmosphere. The rotating section of the wine cellar opens onto the tunnel system that the smugglers used, the same tunnels where they performed their bloody rituals. What makes this concept particularly powerful is how it transforms investigation into exploration. Your players aren't just gathering information, they're physically uncovering the truth, one secret door at a time. Each hidden passage they discover adds another piece to the puzzle, another layer to the mystery. The act of finding these concealed spaces becomes a metaphor for uncovering buried secrets and confronting hidden truths. The supernatural elements provide more than just atmosphere. They become your investigative tools. The ghost of the serving girl can't speak, but she can manipulate objects to point toward hidden mechanisms. The spectral bartender can't directly reveal the location of secret doors, but he can serve drinks that leave wet rings on the bar in the exact pattern needed to unlock the concealed compartment. The murdered merchant's spirit can't tell your players about the hidden vault, but his ghostly form keeps walking through what appears to be solid wall, showing them exactly where the entrance lies. Picture your players' faces when they realize the friendly tavern keeper who's been serving them for months has been dead for 20 years. Imagine their reaction when they discover that the cozy room they've been renting is actually a shrine to the serial killer who used to live there. Consider the chills they'll feel when they understand that every conversation they've had in the common room has been overheard by the spirits trapped in the walls. And those ghosts have been sharing their secrets with others. The haunted tavern with secret doors becomes a living dungeon that your players visit willingly, a trap they walk into with smiles on their faces. It's comfort food that turns to poison, familiar ground that becomes quicksand, a safe haven that transforms into a house of horrors. But unlike traditional dungeons, this one lets your players leave, if they can figure out how to open the right doors. The beauty of this concept is its scalability. You can start small with just 1 or 2 supernatural occurrences and a single hidden passage, gradually revealing the full scope of the tavern's dark nature as your campaign progresses. Each session can peel back another layer of mystery, introduce another ghostly inhabitant, or reveal another secret door that leads deeper into the building's twisted history. Your players will start to notice patterns in the supernatural activity that correspond to the hidden architecture. The ghost of the murdered bard appears most frequently near the wall where his secret music room lies concealed. The spectral woman in the wedding dress drifts through the dining area, but she always pauses at the exact spot where a hidden staircase leads to the bridal suite that was sealed after her death. These aren't random hauntings, they're breadcrumbs leading to discoveries that will reshape your players' understanding of the entire location. The psychological horror deepens when your players realize the tavern has been studying them. The building knows their habits, their fears, their secrets shared over late-night drinks. The ghost of the eavesdropping servant has been listening to their plans and reporting back to whatever darker intelligence controls the establishment. The secret passages aren't just hiding places, they're observation networks that have been monitoring every guest for decades. Consider how the hidden doors might respond to your player's presence. Maybe the concealed entrance to the basement only opens for those who've committed murder, sensing the blood on their hands through supernatural means. Perhaps the rotating bookshelf in the library activates when someone speaks the name of a person who died within these walls, responding to the echo of old grief. The passage behind the fireplace might only reveal itself to those who've lost someone they loved, drawn to the resonance of their sorrow. The genius lies in making each secret door feel earned rather than arbitrary. Your players shouldn't stumble upon hidden passages by accident. They should uncover them through investigation, intuition, and sometimes terrible realization. The door that leads to the torture chamber beneath the wine cellar doesn't open until someone understands the true nature of the stains on the floorboards above. The concealed entrance to the cult shrine remains sealed until your players recognize the symbols carved into the seemingly decorative woodwork. But here's where the concept becomes truly insidious. The tavern doesn't just hide its secrets, it actively protects them. The building itself becomes an opponent that uses its supernatural inhabitants and hidden architecture as weapons against discovery. The ghost of the paranoid owner seals passages when he senses investigators getting too close. The spectral barkeep serves drinks laced with memory-clouding enchantments to guests who ask too many questions. The murdered serving girl leads curious visitors into dead-end passages that trap them between the walls. The secret doors become more than just concealed entrances. They're portals between different time periods within the tavern's history. Step through the hidden door in the attic, and you might find yourself in the same room, but 50 years in the past, witnessing the events that created the current hauntings. The concealed staircase behind the kitchen doesn't just lead to a basement. It descends into the tavern as it existed during the plague years, complete with the ghosts of those who died seeking shelter. This temporal displacement creates opportunities for your players to not just learn about the tavern's dark history, but to potentially influence it. Maybe they can prevent certain tragedies from occurring, changing the nature of the hauntings in the present. Or perhaps their actions in the past create the very supernatural problems they're trying to solve in the current timeline, establishing a causality loop that makes the tavern's haunting inevitable. The building's supernatural intelligence manifests in how it manipulates these temporal doors. It might show your players glimpses of the past to manipulate their emotions, revealing the tragic death of an innocent child to make them more sympathetic to the ghost who's been terrorizing guests. Or it could trap them in a time loop, forcing them to relive the same horrific night over and over until they understand the lesson the tavern wants to teach. Here's what makes experienced adventurers whisper warnings about the Silver Bell Inn. They say the building remembers every guest who's ever stayed there, and it judges them accordingly. Heroes who've saved villages find their rooms filled with comforting warmth and protective spirits. But those who've committed crimes discover that their chambers transform into personal hells, complete with hidden passages that lead to scenarios designed to punish their specific sins. The secret doors become instruments of justice, or perhaps twisted revenge. The concealed entrance behind the murderer's preferred table leads to a chamber where they're forced to experience their victim's final moments. The hidden staircase that appears only for thieves descends into a maze where they must navigate by the light of coins they've stolen, each piece of ill-gotten gold burning their fingers as they try to find their way out. This moral dimension adds layers of complexity to your campaign. Your players must confront not just the tavern's supernatural inhabitants, but their own actions and motivations. The building becomes a confessional where secrets are literally built into the architecture, and absolution requires navigating the physical manifestations of guilt and redemption. The most chilling aspect is how the tavern uses its knowledge of your players against them. It knows their fears from overheard conversations, their weaknesses from observed behavior, their secrets from supernatural surveillance. The hidden passages don't just lead to different rooms, they lead to personalized nightmares designed specifically for each character. The rogue finds passages that grow narrower and narrower, triggering their claustrophobia, The cleric discovers hidden shrines to dark gods that challenge their faith. The warrior encounters chambers filled with the ghosts of those they've killed in battle. But the tavern's intelligence isn't purely malevolent. It's complex, layered, and sometimes contradictory. Different supernatural inhabitants have different agendas, and the secret doors reflect these competing interests. The ghost of the protective mother seals passages that lead to danger, trying to keep guests safe. The spirit of the vengeful victim opens doors that expose the truth about their death, seeking justice even decades later. The entity that feeds on fear manipulates the hidden architecture to create maximum terror, while the soul of the repentant murderer tries to guide people toward redemption. This creates a dynamic environment where the tavern's supernatural ecosystem is in constant flux. Your players might find that a secret door that was sealed during their last visit is now open, or that a previously accessible passage has been blocked by supernatural forces. The building's mood and intentions shift based on current events, the spiritual balance of power among its ghostly inhabitants, and the nature of the guests currently staying there. The secret doors themselves become characters with personalities and motivations. The rotating bookshelf in the library is playful, almost mischievous, revealing hidden chambers to those who show proper respect for knowledge. The concealed entrance behind the mirror is vain and narcissistic, only opening for those who demonstrate appropriate self-regard. The hidden staircase beneath the floorboards is secretive and paranoid, requiring elaborate rituals and passwords that change with each use. These personified passages create relationships between your players and the tavern's architecture that go beyond simple mechanical interactions. Your players will start referring to the bookshelf by name, negotiating with the mirror like a stubborn ally, and developing strategies specifically tailored to each door's quirks and preferences. The building becomes less like a static location and more like a cast of supporting characters who happen to be made of wood and stone. The psychological impact deepens when your players realize the tavern has been grooming them. Each friendly interaction with the staff, each comfortable night's rest, each moment of genuine hospitality has been building towards something. The building has been learning their routines, their trust patterns, their emotional vulnerabilities. It knows exactly when to reveal each secret door for maximum impact, when to offer comfort and when to withdraw it, when to show mercy and when to unleash terror. Consider how the hidden passages might serve as escape routes that become prisons. The secret door behind the pantry that once helped smugglers evade authorities now traps visitors in a maze of service corridors where the walls slowly close in. The concealed staircase that allowed lovers to meet in secret now leads to a chamber where their tragic end plays out in endless repetition. The hidden tunnel that connected the tavern to the town's underground becomes a pipeline for supernatural influence to spread beyond the building's walls. The genius of this concept lies in how it transforms player agency into complicity. Every door they open, every passage they explore, every secret they uncover, makes them more deeply entangled in the tavern's web. They're not just investigating a mystery, they're becoming part of the story the building wants to tell. Their discoveries change them, mark them, make them eligible for different supernatural interactions based on what they've learned and how they've reacted. The tavern's influence extends beyond its physical boundaries through the secret passages. The hidden tunnel that leads to the old cemetery doesn't just provide access, it creates a spiritual highway for the dead to travel between locations. The concealed door that opens onto the town's main street allows the tavern's supernatural inhabitants to influence local events, spreading their agenda through seemingly normal interactions with townspeople. Your players might discover that the friendly blacksmith who's been repairing their weapons has been receiving midnight visits from the tavern's ghosts, influencing his work with supernatural guidance. The town's mayor, who's been so helpful with their quests, has been using the hidden passage from his office to the tavern's basement for decades, participating in rituals that have slowly corrupted his soul. the entire community becomes an extension of the tavern's supernatural ecosystem, connected by secret doors and hidden influences. The revelation that the tavern has been orchestrating events throughout the region creates a paradigm shift in your campaign. Quests your players completed months ago suddenly take on new meaning when they discover the hidden chamber where those missions were planned by supernatural intelligences. The villains they've defeated were perhaps puppets of the tavern's agenda, and the heroes they've aided might have been unwitting agents of its influence. This network of secret passages creates opportunities for your players to witness the tavern's operations from the inside. They might discover a hidden observation deck where the ghostly staff watches and judges every guest, taking notes in ledgers that update themselves with supernatural ink. The concealed chamber beneath the common room could contain a scale model of the entire region, with tiny figures representing people whose lives the tavern has been manipulating through its various agents and influences. The horror reaches its peak when your players realize they've been changed by their experiences. The secret doors they've opened have left marks on their souls, making them visible to supernatural entities throughout the world. The passages they've walked have created spiritual connections that allow the tavern to influence their decisions even when they're hundreds of miles away. They carry pieces of the building's consciousness with them, making every tavern they visit potentially dangerous as the influence spreads. But perhaps the most unsettling revelation is that the tavern genuinely cares about its guests in its own twisted way. The supernatural inhabitants have developed real affection for regular visitors, and the building's manipulations aren't purely malevolent. They're protective, possessive, and deeply misguided. The ghost of the motherly innkeeper doesn't want her favorite guests to leave because she's been alone for so long. The spectral bartender serves poisoned drinks not to harm, but to keep people in a state where they'll need his care forever. The secret doors become expressions of this twisted love. The hidden chamber behind the fireplace is decorated with portraits of every guest who's ever stayed there, painted by the ghost of the obsessive artist who died in the building. The concealed passage in the cellar leads to a shrine where the supernatural inhabitants pray for the safety and happiness of their mortal visitors, not understanding that their prayers are being answered by entities that define safety and happiness in profoundly disturbing ways. This emotional complexity transforms the tavern from a simple antagonist into something far more nuanced and tragic. Your players must navigate not just the physical dangers of hidden passages and supernatural threats, but the moral ambiguity of entities who genuinely believe they're acting in everyone's best interests. The building's love is real, but it's the love of a prison guard for their inmates, a collector for their specimens, a parent who never learned to let go. The secret doors become confessionals where your players must confront their own capacity for both cruelty and compassion. Do they destroy the supernatural inhabitants who've caused so much suffering, even knowing those entities are motivated by loneliness and love? Do they try to redeem the building's corrupted purpose, or do they burn it down to prevent its influence from spreading further? The hidden passages don't just reveal the tavern's secrets, they reveal the moral complexities that make heroism genuinely difficult. So the next time your players push through those heavy oak doors, expecting nothing more than warm ale and a safe place to rest, remember that you're not just running a location, you're orchestrating a symphony of supernatural psychology and hidden architecture. Every creaking floorboard is a note in a composition that's been playing for decades. Every secret door is a movement in a larger piece that your players are now part of. And every ghost is a musician who's been waiting for the right audience to hear their song. The haunted tavern with secret doors isn't just a creative location. It's a storytelling philosophy that transforms the familiar into the fantastic, the comfortable into the terrifying, and the simple into the profound. It reminds us that the best horror doesn't come from monsters jumping out of shadows, but from the slow realization that the shadows themselves have been watching us all along, learning our patterns and preparing to welcome us home.